teams don't take many penalties. In fact, you're the least penalized team in the league on a per game basis. Anytime you do take a penalty, though, you have one loss. Is there ever any video work or one-on-one discussions with coaches on how to avoid that, or just just how to clean that up, maybe?
As for not taking as many penalties?
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I think that's kind of an individual basis, that if you feel like you're taking a lot of penalties or a certain type of penalties, then maybe just kind of looking at your own shifts. And I know for myself, that would be what I would do.
Gary, on your right.
Mike, based on either your experience in Florida or what you've done in practices here, if there is one quality of Crosby's that you would like to neutralize, what would it be? What would the top priority be?
I think the quality that he has is bar none the work ethic that he has, and that's the hardest thing to neutralize, because he just keeps coming at you no matter how long throughout the game you've been able to neutralize him. I think that's got to be his best quality. I think there's guys in the league that have more skill than him in certain areas and more ability and things like that, but you see it sometimes when that line especially gets going down low and he's just turning back on defensemen, and it seems like there's nothing you can do to get the puck off him. That's not really his. I mean, he is great at protecting the puck and definitely one of the best, if not the best in the league at doing that, but I think his will is just what really separates him from a lot of players around the league and the world.
Mike, how would you describe Malkin's vibe in these kind of competitive drills that you do, like the one to open practice? It seems like he celebrates harder than most, and he takes the enforcement of like the push-ups very seriously.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think he keeps things light, which is good to have. Through a long season, it can be tough, especially if the team isn't playing great, or you're individually you're feeling like your game isn't where it needs to be, and then you see that he's just keeping it light and not taking things too seriously. I think that's a huge part of the different elements of what goes into having a good team. He's definitely good at bringing that.
Michelle?
Like, obviously you're pretty closely connected with women's hockey with Emily. Just what has it been like to see the hirings in Vancouver with Tammy Granado and Emily Cassanier getting those positions in hockey ops?
I think it's great. I think throughout the league there's been a lot of players. Ken O'Coin's been working with Chicago a lot, and I think it's great because it's overseeing how much work they put into their game with very little notice or attention on it. I've seen it firsthand where Emily was competing in the Olympics, which was great for that 3 weeks, but nobody saw the other 3 years and 11 or 9 months of work that went into that, where she was skating alone, training alone, which is so boring and tedious to do. But she stuck with it and made sure that every time that she went off to a camp, which was once or twice a year, World Championships is once a year, we get to play 82 games a year and have that competitive environment so often to be able to show what we worked on. And so I think the fact that that's been getting noticed more and more and utilized in a great way has been huge for the game.
Mike, your partner, Chad Real, his next game will be a career high for him in terms of games per season. Is there any weight to a statistic like that? And just what have been your observations of how your partnership with him over these 4 or 5 months has grown since the season opener?
Well, I think one of the things that last year that I admired about him was he wasn't in the lineup every single night, but it seemed like when he wasn't playing as if he hadn't. And that's a bit of a fumble of words, but if it makes any sense at all, he's just so good at staying consistent regardless of whether he's been in the lineup for the last 20 games or hasn't been in the lineup for the last 20 games. And this year he has been, and he's continued to bring that consistency, which has been really impressive, I think.